crucifixion. It was invented by the Persians, adapted by Alexander the Great, passed on to the Carthaginians, but it was perfected by the Romans. Jewish historian Josephus called it the most wretched of deaths, and Greek philosopher Cicero forbade even the thought of it. In fact, it was such an agonizing means of execution that a word was literally invented to describe it. The word excruciating means from the cross. The cross was a symbol of shame and of disgrace. But before Jesus even got there, he was subject to such a flogging that many people died just from the beating alone. He was then subject to a series of false trials before a crudely fashioned crown of thorns was shunted into his scalp. He then had to carry the very means of his execution on his shoulder, the 600-meter walk up the Via Dolorosa, the way of suffering. All the while, the crowds were hurling their insults and jeers and mockery at him as he limped his way towards Golgotha. Now, others who were crucified would have responded to the jeers of the crowd with curses of their own, but in the Gospels we get this incredible picture of a crucified Messiah who instead is loving, caring for, and forgiving those around him. Amidst the blood, the sweat, and the urine, we have this incredible picture of the crucified Christ abounding in love, saying things like, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." To the criminal on the cross who asked Jesus to remember him, he said, "Truly, you will be with me today in paradise." And then right in his final moments, in John 19:30, Jesus declared tetelestai, "It is finished." This phrase didn't just mean it has happened. It meant it has happened, it is happening, and it is forever done. It has this past, present, and continuous connotation to it. All of the evil and the wickedness and the violence had converged on Jesus. Sin had done its worst, but Jesus had exhausted its force. You may have heard it said that there are over 300 Old Testament prophecies that Jesus fulfilled in his life, death, and resurrection. 300 Old Testament prophecies, some that we've just looked at in our Shadows series, looking at the shadows of the cross from the Old Testament on Sundays and in our city groups. 300 Old Testament prophecies fulfilled, 27 on this day alone. And in his last final public prayer, just before his arrest by the Romans, Jesus asked that the Father would glorify him as he has brought glory to the Father, enabling him to finish the work that he was sent to do. What was the work he was sent to do? To seek and to save the lost. It is finished. He has done it. But what does this phrase mean for us? Well, it means a heck of a lot, but let me just highlight a couple of things. It is finished means that we have access to God. It was in this moment that the temple curtain that only the high priest was allowed to pass, that temple curtain tore, not from bottom to top, but from top to bottom, signifying that God had opened his presence for the whole world, granting access to him through the cross of Christ. And that is something that modern day followers of God don't probably fully appreciate, because in the Old Testament, only the high priest on only a few very special occasions was allowed to enter the holiest part of the temple. And if he didn't follow all the rites and the rituals correctly, then he was toast. But now we get to approach God boldly. We have access. We can approach him in prayer, bringing him, yes, our hopes, dreams, our aspirations, but also our disappointments, our fears, our concerns, our pain, our loss, our grief, our doubts, knowing that he is God with us on the mountaintops and he is also God with us in the valleys. And it's this kind of access and personal relationship to God that the Old Testament prophets and patriarchs could not have imagined in their wildest of dreams. It is finished means that we have access to God. It is finished also means that all can be welcomed in as a resurrection people. Jerry Bridges once said it this way. He said that on your worst days, you are never so bad that you are beyond the reach of God's grace, but on your best days, you are never so good that you are beyond the need for God's grace. We've all been welcomed in as his resurrection people. And while God had previously selected just the Israelites as his people, it is finished means that he began grafting in the Gentiles. For most of us, that means you and I. We've been grafted in, formed into this new family of resurrection people. And so Good Friday, like communion in many ways, is about remembering. It's about remembering the suffering and the sacrifice of Jesus. But Good Friday is also about celebration. It's celebrating the temple curtain torn in two. It's about celebrating this access that has been granted, and it's about celebrating the dawn of the resurrection people. The cry, "It is finished," turned the cross, this symbol of intimidation and terror, into a symbol of unrelenting hope and love. It is finished. He has done it.